Hello everyone, welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be editing Aragorn's Ranger Sword from the Lord of the Rings. I'm going to put a brand new blade on it, make it the right shape, sharpen it properly, and reshape the end of the handle here and make it much more round. Let's go. So first I laid out the sword next to the tape measure, and as you can see it's about 42 inches, only just maybe 41.5, and it needs to be 51 inches. So I'm going to be making the new blade a lot bigger and making it the right size. So starting off, like I do with every other project, I start by gluing a template onto just about the same type of wood I use for all my swords. It's this long piece of pine wood. It's very good for making swords, and it's a very good width and length. It's just a very good piece of wood that I like to use. So I start by putting the template on just so I know where to cut, and I did print the template out a little bit small, so here I'm just using my tri-square and pencil to connect the template because I spread it out along the wood to make it the right shape and size. And so next I'm going to be using this electric router tool to make the indent and the groove along the middle of the blade, which is a very nice detail. I always like adding that, and it's a very satisfying process too. And now here is the wood now with the groove down the middle, and I did do this to both sides. And now here I'm just cutting off the excess piece of wood from the blade that I don't need. And then I went in with my rasp tool here and just smoothed it out. And after I did that, I cut the old blade off of the sword. So now I'm just going over what I just cut off and making it a lot smoother, which I'm using my rasp again, which is a very useful tool throughout this process, and I used it quite a lot. And now I am going to cut out the blade. So I have a jigsaw here, which I'm going to use to cut out the shape of the blade. Once I cut out the blade, I used the rasp and I just gave it a brief sanding, just to get rid of any nooks from the jigsaw. And now here I begin sharpening the blade, which is always a good part of the sword making because it's very satisfying and it really brings the sword to life. So for sharpening the sword, I'm going to be using my spoke shave, which I've used in the past on Anduril, Glamdring, Sting. A lot of my past projects. It's a very useful tool. I use it quite a bit. So sharpening the blade was okay, although there was a couple knots in the wood which made it difficult to go over, but I managed to get there in the end as I just filed with the rasp. Here is just a quick look at what the sword will look like once it's done. So the blade is fully sharpened, and I've cut it out and it looks good. And here's just a comparison next to the old blade. You can see the new one is a lot longer. It just looks a lot better too. So now I'm just going to be applying wood filler and then sanding. This was actually quite a process because I did it a few times just to make sure everything was very smooth on the blade, because there was quite a few nicks and holes from where knots in the wood had been. now it's just a process of sanding, which made a huge mess, but it's alright because it actually turned out very smooth and I'm very happy with how it turned out. Sanding wasn't that bad. So now I need to make these pieces of the sword, which go just above the guard and sit at the bottom of the blade. So I'm going to be using this flat piece of wood to do that, and I just cut them out with the jigsaw. So once the pieces had been cut out, I put them together and put them in the vise, and now I'm using my rasp to make them the same size on all three sides, so they don't look awkward or the wrong angle. So I just put them together so I can sand and file them the same side. Once I've done that, I start using my rasp tool to start rounding off the pommel of the handle. And then I started sanding the blade once that was done. And this took a while because there was a lot of wood filler and I really wanted the blade to be smooth, but I think the end result was definitely good and I did a good job. I then started sanding the wood filler that I put on the pommel of the handle after rounding it off, and I was just sanding that and then I was sanding the rest of the handle too. The sandpaper wasn't very good actually, it kept ripping, so I definitely won't be using that one again. So to attach the blade to the handle, I used quite a lot of wood glue and then I put 2 nails either side of the guard to secure it to the blade. And then once that was done, I literally just put wood glue on these 2 bits I made earlier and attached them to the bottom of the blade. And then after that, I put a lot of wood filler and then I sanded it, and I just repeated that process till everything was smooth. And right now I'm just sanding the sword down just to make sure everything's smooth, and then it was basically ready for paint. And one final thing I needed to do before I paint the sword was engrave these rings on the pommel of the handle, which didn't take long at all, and I got it done very quick. And now this is always definitely my favourite part is definitely spraying the sword, because the spray paint I use is this one on screen here, and it's a great spray paint. I've used it for Anduril, Glamdring, Sting, and it's just a great spray paint. It really makes the swords look metallic and very shiny. Okay, so now the sword is fully spray painted silver, and I'm going to be using this leather-like material for the handle, which I've used for many of my past projects. It's a very good material, I use it a lot, so the plan is I'm going to glue it to the handle, leather side face down, so the fabric side is face up, so then I can paint on the fabric side and dye it with Indian ink. Next was dyeing the fabric with Indian ink. So I have it on a paint plate thing here, and I'm just going to go ahead and just brush it on. It was a pretty quick process and it was very satisfying, so I'm happy with the end result. And once that was done, it looked really good, and I just went in with a small amount of Indian ink on a bit of scrunched up toilet paper, and I just dabbed it on the blade just to make it look like it's been in a fight, and just make it look a little bit weathered. I did this with all my swords, and I think it just really adds the character and makes them look so much better. And then just like that, it was finished. I'm so happy with how this sword turned out, and I think it looks so much better than it did before. I really like how the blade looks, and I think I did a great job of that. I'm really glad that I chose to do leather for the handle, because before I just painted it black onto the wood, and I think the fabric leather on the handle just really brings out the character and makes it look a lot better. Thanks for watching, and make sure you drop me a follow or subscribe or whatever you're watching this on.